Hi, everybody. This is Venkat from Simply.Coach, and you're listening to the Growth Dialogues podcast, the show that brings together experts in coaching, therapy, and consulting from around the world. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our latest edition of Growth Dialogues. Very, very happy to have Vikki Nicometo on our call today. Uh, just a bit of background. I met Vikki, I think we met about a couple of years ago when she was looking for a platform to manage the coaching needs in an earlier organization. I very vividly remember the call because we were a very, very young company then with just a few subscribers, and she came in. She was very, very supportive of what we had done, was very clear about what she wanted as well. And she's been a part of our journey over the last couple of years, a lot of valuable inputs as we have built the platform. So thank you, Vicky, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, I want to rewind a bit, Vicky. One of the things which fascinates me is how do professionals like you become coaches? You obviously have a very great history background as a professional. I want to understand how did you get into coaching and what was the process like?
Sure, that's a great question. It was quite a journey for me, and it actually started a long time ago. Um, I went back to college as a non-traditional student, meaning I was a single mom going to college. And when it came time to choose a major, I really struggled a little bit because my whole life, people had been coming to me for help. And even as a kid, my other kid friends would come to me for advice. And I thought about becoming a therapist. And at that time, therapy was to me, it felt very past focused instead of present and forward thinking. And so, although I was accepted into both the School of Social Welfare and I was going to go that path to becoming a therapist, or and the School of Journalism, I ended up opting for journalism. So, graduated with a degree in journalism. And then a few years later, I heard the term life coach and my ears perked up. I thought, oh, I need to look at what that is. I'm like, as I researched, I'm like, oh, I think that's for me. But at the time, I was a single mom raising my kid. So I fell into, after a year or so in journalism, I fell into recruiting and started working with professionals in their career. And again, just that natural people come to me for advice and insight. I found even in corporate offices, the leaders I was working on their open jobs on would be in my office and telling me all their problems. And I thought, man, I really have got to have some tools to help these people. Just my own life experience isn't enough. And so eventually, I was able to, my daughter grew up, moved out of the house, wasn't supporting two of us anymore. And I was able to attend my first life coach training in 2012. And since then, I haven't really looked back. So I hold multiple certifications, life coaching, Gallup certified strengths coach, leadership coaching. I hold a certification in positive psychology. And finally, my ICF PCC, which I'm in process of renewing over the next month or so. Um, and then from there, I had my own coaching business for a few years, and then I sort of fell into this role of recruiting. Sorry, not recruiting, coaching within CPA firms. And I spent my about 5.5 years with the first firm I was working in, and have since moved on to another company where I actually, it'll be just about a year now, join the company to create and launch their internal coaching program. So it's been quite a journey.
Excellent, excellent. I remember you using this phrase, talent development, which is probably a very all-encompassing phrase, and a lot of corporates spend a fair amount of budgets on training, and coaching has been something. So, in talent development in your organization, where does coaching stand? I mean, do people confuse it with training, or are they clear? What's been your experience?
Yeah. So the first firm I was in, their coaching program was pretty mature. It had been, 4 years that they'd had the program when I joined the company. This current organization, it's brand new because I launched it last year with my team. And so we report up to the head of learning and development. Her side, I say, handles most of the learning, obviously, although the coaches do deliver some training. We do design and develop some training as well, but mostly we're coaching internal folks. So we're the development side, we'll say, right? Really, where we're taking people, helping them formulate their goals, and then working with their supervisors as well to check in on how their performance is doing. Are we seeing improvements? Where are they struggling? And that part in particular can be, we have to be mindful of the confidentiality when we're talking to the leaders, but there is a way to do it that has actually been very successful for us. So it's really a lot of one-on-one coaching with our clients, a little bit of consulting with leaders, and a little bit of training in our organization that our coaches do.
It's a great point, Vicky, because you also mentioned about all the different certifications you have. And I know each certifying body is quite rigid about its methodology, its way of working. But I would think that you would have evolved your certain way of working now, which probably picks up from a lot of that. So, one of the things for aspiring coaches, how much should they adhere to a methodology A, B, C, D versus what you have done, right? So, what would you say to some of these newly certifying
That's
coaches?
such Yeah, that is such a great question. I love it. So the way that I see all of my different certifications wasn't so much that I was learning methodology, because to me, the ICF guidelines is pretty great. We do a little bit of what we call advising as well. So sometimes we have to switch hats from coach to advisor. But going back to your original question about what about the methodology, I would say I look at all those as tools in my tool belt. So it's not that I'm adhering to a methodology. We're meeting our client where they're at, right? In this moment, what does this client need? And what tools are in my resource box or in my tool belt that I can use to help them? And all that those different certifications did was give me different lenses to think about, look at, different tools, different questions to pull out to make sure that I'm giving my client what they need in that moment.
Hmm. I love that what you said. You're meeting the client where they are. That's the starting point, right? So you're not going with
Yes,
preconceived notion. So
exactly.
we talked about the CPA firm. Give us a bit of background as to how your CEO, your managing partner, how do they view this platform? I'm very curious to understand this phrase coaching culture in the organization. It's come up in other conversations as well.
Yeah.
How does that pan out in your scenario?
Yeah, I'm smiling because our managing partner is just an incredible person. He's really something. And this program came about because it was his desire. He had, in such a small world in the CPA world here in the US, he had actually learned about this type of program from hearing one of my previous leaders speak. And ever since he heard about what they call their talent advisor program, he really wanted to be able to bring that to his employees someday. And because of where the firm is now and its growth, it is definitely growing. This was the right time for them. And the timing just happened to work out perfectly that I was looking to make a move at the same time they were looking for someone to build this program. And so he was actually the driving force behind wanting the program. Currently, we coach about half of our current employees. So our firm is roughly around 400 people. And my current team is myself and four other coaches. And we're broken out by level. And we currently coach the client facing um, practice staff. So any accountants in tax and audit and the folks in our consulting group, they're all receiving coaching right now. His goal, our managing partner's goal, is to have everybody in the firm have a coach. And so we are looking, as we look into, we're just getting ready to do next year's budget. And so once it's approved, we hope to be expanding to include all employees in our coaching program. So he's very on board with coaching, very much so. And most of the other partners that I've spoken with, the various practice leaders, um, and the partners that I speak with regarding, the clients that are their direct reports and that I serve, they are so excited by the program because it does bring another level of support to folks, and it helps them. Their supervisors are busy people. They also have a full-time job in addition to supervising, right? So the coaches really work alongside the supervisors to help with the growth and development. Our coaches are not accountants themselves, so we're not technical experts. We understand enough about the business to understand the challenges our clients have, but we are not accountants. And so we don't bring a technical perspective. We bring the whole person perspective. What's this person dealing with? Because we know that whatever have going on outside of work is going to impact you in work because we're humans. What is this person's goals? What's the barrier to their goals? How do we help them achieve those goals? Are they even in the right profession? Sometimes we run into that as well. So we're building this coaching culture as we speak. And it's like I said, we actually launched the program in August of last year. So I joined at the end of April. We launched the beginning of August. So we haven't even been in a full year in our program yet. And I would say it's going gangbusters. The coaching culture has caught on like wildfire. Took a little bit of learning, but I mean, people got up to speed pretty fast here because there was such an appetite for it.
Great. It's great. I think so. Learning there, especially when you have somebody at the top, I guess directing it, I've seen that then people understand that this is serious. This is not nice to have, but it's something which is very integral. So that
Yes.
resonates a lot with what I've seen with some of the other forward-looking organizations.
Yes. And it's a big investment, right? It's a
Yeah.
big investment in other people. When you think about hiring 5 professional coaches, bringing in a software, right? Bringing in all the support that they need, it's a big investment. And so it's not one that the partners took lightly. The partners have invested in it wholeheartedly, which is fantastic.
So you did mention a few hundred people, and you talked about technology. Give us some color
Yes.
as to how important is technology in this entire coaching. How does that work for you?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked this because there is a marked difference between the first firm that I was at and where I'm at now. And that's because of, I think, a big relief of administrative pressure has come from using Simply.Coach as our coaching platform. We did not, at the first firm I was at, we just kept our notes in a Word document in a locked file. And that made it complicated because we are aligned by level. So when somebody advances from the associate level to the experienced associate level, right, then they move on to the next coach, and that could make it a little bit difficult and cumbersome from changing the file to this person to that person, and depending on where the notes were kept and that sort of thing, it just is cumbersome. Using Simply.Coach, we have, first of all, it makes it much easier when we're doing a handoff from one coach to another. All the notes are right there. The history of how many sessions they've had is right there. We don't have to go looking for files. I know that when Sensibo was coming over to Simply.Coach, we did a lot of double checking on that. We had our IT department double check on the security of the files and the data. And that's very comforting to me to know that my client's data is secure. As a leader of this team, I'm able to pull reports out of Simply.Coach that let me know, okay, nobody's making sure nobody's falling through the cracks. I can check and see how many clients any one of my coaches has at a time to make sure they're not overloaded. So the technology it has just unburdened us from a lot of administrative stuff. Not saying that there's no administration, because of course we have to book our clients, we have to keep notes, but it has really streamlined that process and made it much, much easier. And then of course, just having the reporting function is wonderful.
Great. So great to hear that. You did mention about different levels of employees, and sure you're doing all of one-on-one coaching. Uh, is group coaching something that you do, or is it a part of your roadmap?
Yeah. So I think that there's a place for group coaching. In my last firm, the client group that I was supporting, was growing pretty rapidly, and they had reached a point in their careers where, so I back then I supported managers, and so when somebody became a manager, we gave them they had to stay in coaching for 1 year after they reached manager, but then had the option after that to either stay one-on-one, drop out of coaching altogether, or do group coaching. And many opted for group coaching, and it was really popular with them. It was really effective. So we haven't entered the realms of group coaching here yet. However, we do have some group coaching plans in our roadmap. So that's coming for us. I think that there are some great benefits to group coaching depending on where the person is in their career, right? So folks who are pretty senior in their career maybe need less one-on-one, but man, they sure want more time with their peers to talk about the common struggles that they have. And so that's a way that we have used it in the past and plan to use it in the future, where we have a group of people at the same level, right? With the same challenges, and they're all getting coached together and learning from one another as well, just from witnessing each other, right? As well as hearing best practices. Another idea that I have that hasn't been signed off on yet, but I really love this idea and I'm tinkering with it a little bit, is group coaching around topics. So let's say new parents, right? New parents who are coming back to work full time have a whole set of struggles that's unique to them. The sandwich generation, right? People who are taking care of elderly parents and still have young kids at home, they have a set of circumstances that's unique to them. Maybe those with ADHD or something like that have a unique set of circumstances. So we might just look at group coaching that's optional for people to opt in by topic as well.
Yeah, this is something which we have heard from other coaching businesses around the world as well. That the classical methodology is, let's do a discovery session, let's do 5, 6 sessions over a period of few months, see how it goes, and that's more discovery. Right? The one that you're mentioning is where you've identified a need, and perhaps you've got a theme around it, or a structure, or what a journey around it, and say, okay, if this is what you need, you're coming back to the workforce, we'll put you through this 3 month coaching program that helps you to assimilate faster. So, yeah, that is something which I'm seeing a lot of businesses uh, come, and where the problem identification has happened. Somebody has identified a coaching need, and now they want it getting delivered by experienced coaches like you. So,
Yeah.
it's a lot. So I want to circle back to the coaching culture, right? And
Yeah.
you mentioned about other accounting firms, even businesses. So for somebody who's just watching this show and says that, yeah, I think coaching is really needed, but if I want to do that in my organization of a few hundred people, what would be the top 3 things that they need to look at, or what would your inputs or advice to them be? How should they
Yeah,
go
that's
about it?
it's a great question. I think we always need to start with what's the problem we're trying to solve. That's our first question.
Yeah,
So, what are we hoping that coaching is going to do for our organization? What do we think, at the end of a year of coaching or 2 years of coaching, what do we want to be different than it is today?
yeah,
So that's the first thing you have to identify, right? What needs to be different? Once you've identified that, then you can decide if coaching is the right solution for the problem you're trying to fix. If it is, the next thing you need to do is, of course, get a stakeholder buy-in, right? Get somebody who has um, the purse strings. Who's going to fund it? Who's going to fund it, right? How are you going to fund it? Who should be included in this? What population of our employees do we want to have start with coaching? Do we want to do a test group first? There's so many ways to come at it. But I think fundamentally you have to know what problem you're trying to solve and believe that and be sure that coaching really is the right solution for that problem.
it's a great summary. Know what problem you're going to solve. Say again, validate if coaching indeed is the solution for that problem. Then third is absolute sponsorship from the top. I
Yeah,
think great set of things to do. So just to
exactly.
wrap up this conversation, and a few things which is like more from a forward-looking perspective. Uh, we keep hearing about a lot of AI which is coming into coaching. Machines can coach people. Coaches may get extinct. you get unbiased from AI. I've heard a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons as well, saying that so privacy is lost, coaching is highly individualistic. So, as a professional, I'm sure you're assessing some of this. What are your thought process on some
Sure.
of these newer AI technologies?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And I think there are pros and cons, right? I played around with one AI coaching tool just for myself to see how it did. It asked great questions. So that's a definite pro. But I think the biggest con is when I am coaching somebody like this, right? And most of we're all video because we're spread all over the country.
Yeah, yeah.
You can see nuances, right? So I don't know if you are familiar with the book Blink, but basically it talks about how our brain takes in so much data, or what we call intuition might be all a trillion bits of data that we're taking in at once that we don't even register, right? And maybe that's what intuition is or gut instinct is. So thinking like that, if I'm watching my client and their mouth is saying one thing, but their facial expression or their body language is saying something else, I can read that there's something incongruent there, and I can be curious about that and question it with them. And I think that that's where AI can't help, right? That's where AI sort of lacks, is it where it's what it's missing is that human element of being able to read the person as well as the word, not just the word, beyond just the words they're saying.
It's a great point, and I mean, it's something which I think a lot of new coaches are also asking about is there a future for me in coaching if it's all taken over by AI? And I do tell them not to worry. So you're not being taken over. Machine is not
Right.
replacing you. So that resonates a lot. I mean, I'm sure in coaching you hear many things from other coaches. You read a lot of books. Any particular coaching quote that stands out for you, Vicky? That something which is very,
Yeah.
very meaningful.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, I'm working on renewing my PCC. And so I've been doing a lot of continuing ed credits these days, watching a lot of stuff. And I wish I remember the woman's name to attribute it to. And unfortunately, I don't. But this was through a training that I took through ICF's learning portal. And the woman said this thing that has really, really stuck with me. And I keep saying it to my coaches because I think it's so true. Um, our job as coaches is not to help our clients feel better. It's to help them think better. And I love that. I'm kind of from doing the positive psychology course, I'm sort of a brain science nerd. I love understanding how the human mind works. I love the understanding of how our mind creates our reality in so many ways. It definitely impacts mood. So I'm always trying to get my coaches to understand that let's focus on the person, coach the person, not the problem. And then remember that it's really their thinking that's most of the time really the problem. So that's probably a great one is we're not here to make them feel better. We're here to help them think better.
Very well said. Again, I'm going to combine the two things you said. You said at the beginning, meet the client where they are. And our job is not to make the client feel better, but think better.
Yes.
That resonates a lot. So,
Great.
excellent conversation, Vicky. I learned a
Thank you.
lot talking to you. Again, thank
Thank
you
you.
for having been a valuable subscriber, client, coach of Simply Coach, and for being very generous with your time today with us. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Venkat, may I share just one more thought with you?
Please.
I just wanted to talk to those coaches who maybe have gotten certified and they're thinking, okay, now I need to go be an entrepreneur and start my own coaching business. And if you're struggling with that, please keep in mind that there's more ways to coach than just being an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur for 3 years. It was difficult. I got so lucky to find my first corporate coaching job, and corporate in-house coaching is growing. So if independent coaching isn't for you, don't give up on coaching. Look at another way to do it and know that in-house coaching is available. And if you would like more information about that or just want someone to talk to about it, please connect with me on LinkedIn. And I will be happy to talk about my transition from trying to be a solopreneur to being an in-house coach and the pros and cons of each.
Very, very generous of you, Vicky. That's so Vicky, right? That a
Thank you.
lot of our viewers would love and would take up on that offer. Thank you very
Great.
much. Okay, thank you very much for all the things that you've done with us. And thank you for spending your time with us today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Venkat. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Growth Dialogues. Don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you enjoy your podcast.